In regards to the title, I'm having a hard time picking one, but I'm very curious to hear what you guys have to say on the matter. What's up? I'm Adrian, and you should consider joining us for a watch-along sometime to take part in great moments of brotherhood, such as this.
Yes!
And sisterhood too. Shout out to Laura. Okay, let's get right into our recap for this week's action, because it was sweet action. Caught me adjusting my mic there, sorry. Alright, I'm still adjusting my mic. So there are two things that Cristiano Ronaldo holds in higher regard than anything else in football, pretty much. Performing in the Champions League and scoring goals against Atletico Madrid. He can't stop. Coming into this one, after the events of the first leg, the thought was, well, if anyone could hold a team to a 0-0 draw or squeak out of the Juventus stadium with a 1-0 loss and still progress, it would be Diego Simeone's Atletico Madrid. Now the thing is though, Simeone's Atletico Madrid didn't show up. They played far too narrow, giving Juventus all the room they needed down the flanks for Spinazzola, Bernardeschi, Cancelo, and sometimes Ronaldo when he wasn't floating into the box to get on the end of headers. On top of that, Atletico just didn't have the same sort of fight or cojones that Simeone's sides typically have. Something Ronaldo reminded him of later with his celebration, which, to be fair to Simeone, he said that he loved it. Not that he loved it, but, you know. Right from the off, Juve were flying and had the bit between their teeth. Ronaldo was a little quiet to start, as noted by some of those watching the stream.
But he can pop up at any moment. He can start putting in chance after chance at any moment, so... Let's see, ball in, Ronaldo... Oh, there it is! Just like that!
And from there, it felt like there was only one outcome. In the second, thanks to another incredible delivery from the flank, this time from João Cancelo, and Ronaldo's header just went over the line. A game of inches here, or more a game of centimeters in this case, as Oblak came so close to making the save of the tournament so far. To avoid extra time, Juve needed a goal, and it was Bernardeschi that would win the penalty for Ronaldo to put away. And the tie was over. 3-2 on aggregate for Juventus. Now, I know it's becoming a bit of a meme on here that I think that every single penalty is soft. I guess I'm just old-fashioned, and I want contact to be extremely obvious in the box, just like I want my handballs to be blatant handballs. I want the foul to be a case of the player truly impeding another player, not a slight touch giving an opportunity to go down. You know what I mean? It just drives me crazy. But I can also recognize that, hey, that's just the game now. So if we're calling that a penalty, I guess it's on me to come around and accept these kinds of things for the future. And I do also think that Correa was stupid as hell to give him that push, as light as it may have been, because you're just giving the referee a reason to call a penalty. So he brought it upon himself. Stupid move for him. Bernardeschi was cutting in on his weaker foot anyways. He didn't need to do that. But regardless of whether it was soft or not, calm down there, keyboard warriors, because regardless of whether it was soft or not, there was only one team that showed up in this match. There was only one team that deserved to go through, and there was only one man in this competition that could be behind it. Well, one of two men that could be behind it. And before I go through these stats, can we please, for once, I beg you, not compare Ronaldo and Messi with such vitriol? Can each set of fans just drop the comparisons and enjoy these players? It's so boring to hear the whataboutisms from each side or get accusations against me of liking one more than the other just because I so happen to praise one in one episode. It's crazy. Just enjoy them both. Celebrate them both. We'll get to what Messi did a little bit later. Don't worry, Messi fans. I just find it's a shame to spend more time hating the other one than simply enjoying what they're producing. Like, imagine your fave player does something great, and your first thought is, I can use this to try to shut down those insert blank fans here. Like, doesn't that get tiresome, guys? Just enjoy them. It's fine. You can like both. Or maybe not like both, but at least respect the ability of both. So, back at it. With yet another hat-trick in the Champions League, he's now level with Lionel Messi with 8 for the most in the competition's history. And this isn't the first time he's done this. Remember back in 2016 when Real were 2-0 down on aggregate and needed a big turnaround at home against Wolfsburg? Same situation, same result, a Ronaldo hat-trick. Ronaldo is now the only player of those who have scored 50-plus Champions League goals in the history of the competition to have actually scored more goals in the knockout rounds than in the group stage. Two things to remember here. He scores so much in the knockout rounds, and there is actually one more knockout round match than there is group stage matches. So it makes sense, but it's still crazy. And also, the other players to have scored more than 50 goals are Messi, Raul, Benzema, Van Nistelrooy, Lewandowski, and Thierry Henry. Right, editor Adrian? So, coming into this, Cholo Simeone's Atletico were undefeated against Italian opposition and had only conceded once. And after coming back from this, the way Allegri had the team set up, the arrival of Ronaldo into this season's Champions League, the insane performances from Cancelo, Chiellini, Bernardeschi, obviously Ronaldo, Pjanic, the list goes on. The way this team played, the way they turned the results around, they have to be one of the favorites now. No? Because man, it could go in many directions at this point. All right, now, City versus Schalke, and I mean, there's not much to break down here. City are having a great season, capable of dummying teams, even when they aren't at their best. That said, they did show up on this occasion, and their opponents felt it and will be feeling that spanking for a long time. So, Schalke, on the other hand, well, let me put it this way. They're having a terrible season, especially in this moment, as they are winless in their last 7 matches in the Bundesliga, where they currently sit in 14th place, just 4 points above the relegation playoff. And Schalke fans, if any of you are watching, I'm not saying this in an LOL, these guys are so bad kind of way. I'm just trying to put into perspective the massive struggle that the squad and Tedesco have had this season in comparison to last season, where I personally thought they were punching above their weight just a little bit. Just a little bit. I mean, if Schalke were in any other group in this Champions League season, they probably would have finished maximum third. Maybe they would have been able to pip Roma or something to second, or just barely sneak through any of the others. But the point being, they wouldn't have advanced, and they didn't play anywhere near like a Champions League round of 16 team, because in this current state, they aren't one. And this match really illustrated that. 7-0. You rarely get 7 goals for one team on aggregate, let alone in one match. City took 35 minutes to get the scoring going, but once they did, they blew them out of the water completely. Aguero could have had a hat-trick. Sané did get a hat-trick of assists. Sterling and Bernardo with contributions as expected, and Ederson only had to make 1 save. City looked good, obviously. Winning 10-2 on aggregate, you can't get much better than that. But it's hard to judge City's quality after a tie like this. Almost knocked my water bottle down. That could have been bad. Despite that, if we take them at face value, they have to be considered as a favorite for this thing. The question is, does City favor a certain competition, or do they divide their attention evenly? Or maybe they focus just on the league and the Champions League? There's also the FA Cup to consider in there, though I'm assuming that will be the competition that they would care the least about. Not saying they're not going to try to win it or anything, but just if you gotta kill one of your kids, let it be the FA Cup. Pep's choice. Now to Wednesday's matches, and we'll start with Bayern versus Liverpool from the Allianz Arena. Most notably for Bayern, they're missing Kimmich at right back, so Rafinha was called upon to fill in. The good part for Liverpool, Van Dijk was back in the lineup, as well as Alexander-Arnold at right back. And Liverpool were the better team early on, but Bayern quickly took over and were looking as though they would find an opening first, with Gnabry looking especially lively on the right. But in the 26th minute, that was when it was turned on its head, when a ball forward by Van Dijk found Sadio Mane, and the rest was just poetry. Absolute poetry. My favorite goal of the round of 16. Mane takes the ball down in stride with Rafinha on his back, and with an onrushing Neuer closing in, he had the presence of mind to change direction with so much speed, with such an ungodly, filthy turn. And then speaking of presence of mind, the finish. Beautiful. He didn't rush the finish. He didn't try to blast it or roll it along the ground where the defenders had a chance. He dinked it to the back post between everyone while Neuer was still feeling the effects of being skinned alive. Filthy goal. But Bayern responded 10 minutes later with a goal of their own. Not the most beautiful goal, as it was actually Joel Matip who had the final touch of Gnabry's squared ball into the box. He had an attacker right over his shoulder. I believe it was Lewandowski, so he had to do something. But now, at this point, the game was sort of in the balance as we went into the half tied. Liverpool had the comfort of knowing that a score draw would see them through, while Bayern had to come out swinging. And they did. They started better this time, better than the first half, but as the half went on, the better Liverpool looked, culminating in a flurry of corners that birthed a Virgil van Dijk bullet header to make it 2-1. Beautiful header, unstoppable. At this point, it was pretty much over because Bayern had to score 2 more. But Sadio Mane and Mo Salah linked up with a third in the 84th. Beautiful assist from Salah, good header from Mane, tie over. I actually thought that Salah was decent today. His general play was good. He was strong on the ball and was completing take-ons. His passing was decent, though he was guilty of trying to force a goal. There was a moment when he was in clear on goal and he tried to shoot it himself instead of laying it out wide to Mane. Wrong move. I feel like with the form he was in last year and all the goals that were coming so naturally to him, he would have laid that off last year. But since he wants goals so badly now because he's in bad form, quotation marks there, he tried to do it all himself and it was the wrong move. Speaking of bad form, Lewandowski, again, when his team needed him badly in the Champions League, he went aquafina, clear, invisible. His best play was pulling the ball out of the back of the net after Joel Matip tucked it in for Bayern. To be fair to Lewandowski though, he didn't have much service, but still, when he was on the ball himself, he wasn't good. That could be down to him simply not being a good match for Van Dijk, but he didn't have much more luck up against Matip either. And I feel like Bayern may be regretting not cashing in on him when he wanted to leave so badly. There's a few positions that they could have used that cash to improve upon. Speaking of Van Dijk, what can you say about this guy? I haven't seen this solid of a defender for a few years now. Back when Liverpool played Wolves in the league, Steve Nicol, I know, he says some whack shit, but he knows defending. He said that you know that Van Dijk is good because you almost never see him go to ground. And it's so true. I'm trying to think of a time when I've seen Van Dijk actually being forced to go to ground because he was caught out of position. It just doesn't really happen. And so, 3-1 the final. Liverpool scored all 4 goals on the day, as Josh Byrne noted, with the biggest concern for Liverpool being that Andy Robertson picked up a silly yellow when the game was dead already. It was in stoppage time. So he'll be out of the first leg of the quarterfinals. And Henderson went off injured in the 13th minute, but honestly, Liverpool looked better once Fabinho came on. So with Liverpool booking their place in the last 8 for the first time since the 08-09 season, there are 4 English teams in the quarterfinals of the Champions League. Conversely, for the first time in 13 years, there's no German team in the quarterfinals of the Champions League. What's going on, Germany? Barca versus Lyon is where we'll close things out. And look, I was talking about how it's so lame to always compare Ronaldo and Messi because you end up hating something that's there to be enjoyed. People like me, people who just get to enjoy both players without the hate of another constantly looming in the back of our heads, we were happy people this week because Messi was up to his usual tricks against Lyon and Ronaldo smashed
Atletico.
And Messi was at it early against Lyon, forcing a save out of Lopes. Go ahead, someone in the chat. Say that it's pronounced Lopez. Get it over with. It's Anthony Lopes. But Barcelona would find the breakthrough via a penalty. Don't worry, I do recognize that Denier was stupid to make that rash of a challenge in the first place. And even if he tried to pull out of it, it's his fault for going to ground. I should probably just embargo myself from speaking about penalties. Messi trotted up to the spot kick and hit the iciest of Panenkas straight down the middle. 1-0, both on the score and aggregate, remember. Lyon had a couple of random chances throughout the first half, but it was Barcelona who would again find the back of the net when the man without form, Philippe Coutinho, scored a goal that Stevie Wonder could have scored after a great pass from Artur Fried Suarez, and with Gorgelin at his mercy. Gorgelin replaced an injured Lopes, by the way. I think he broke his nose. Suarez squared to Coutinho, who had just to roll the ball into the back of the net. Dyslexia. Now, 2-0 up at the half, Barca cruising, but in the 58th minute, things got extremely interesting and very nervy when Lucas Toussaint finished off a scramble in the box, 2-1, and suddenly, if Lyon draw level, then they would advance. It was enough to scare Barcelona because the match got interesting here, with more opportunities falling to the French side and alarm bells ringing a little bit. But when Barcelona needed him, Messi was happy to burn 2 Lyon defenders, Marcelo and Denier, before striking towards goal. The ball did dribble in, but the control leading up to the strike was beautiful. And he wasn't finished there either, as Messi passed to up-and-coming striker Gerard Piqué. I don't know if you've heard of him. He's a young striker for Barcelona, and he made it 3-1. But again, Messi and his dribbling were OP, dragging 3 defenders before picking out Piqué. Great ball forward in the lead-up by Artur as well, as I thought he was great in this game. He completed 98.6% of his passes today, and that is doing Xavi proud. Speaking of passing, for the final goal, it was Messi again providing the final ball as he played Dembele in, and his strike went through the legs of Gorgelin and in. 5-1, a dismantling, and Messi having a hand in 4 goals. So that means he scored 35 plus goals in the last 11 seasons for Barca, and that win actually brought him level with Xavi's record of 476 victories for Barcelona, the most in their history, a record that Messi will surely be smashing. I turned Sean Connery there. So, Barcelona are the final team to book their spot in the quarterfinals, and I think they immediately become one of the favorites. Though I gotta say, for me, again, there isn't one major standout. Nobody looks unbeatable, as you can see weaknesses or ways to exploit the weaker aspects of most teams. Big statement from Liverpool going away to Bayern and winning. The 5-1 was emphatic from Barca. Juve's turnaround makes them a huge contender, and with Messi and Ronaldo doing whatever they want to their opponents now, having their way with them, this tournament is heating up. Okay guys, I will leave you now. You're free to go. I hope you enjoyed yourself today. If you did, a like is appreciated. If you didn't, there's the dislikes there as well. And hey, if you want to join this growing community, get in on some watch-alongs, etc., try hitting that subscribe button. See what happens. My name is Adrian. This is Rabona TV. Thanks for watching. Goodbye.